Into the autumn now, and despite the rescheduled date for race 7 of the UCI Women's World Tour, there was no difference in the weather. The peloton set to ride Liege Bastogne Liege in cold and heavy rain. But there was a small change to the route. Slightly shorter, there was less distance from the top of the final climb to the finish line in Liège.
I think it's better. The last finish was pretty hectic, the last year's finish, and longer. So now there's less time when you come on the top for the finish. So it's perfect for breakaways or for solo rides.
We know these circumstances from last year, so it's nothing really new. But of course, compared to what we've had in the past few weeks, it will be different. But yeah, it will be hard anyway, and I expect the same names as you always see.
It's a spring classic in October, and it's actually the same weather. So I expect a kind of a really hard race, and that kind of race like we have in the spring normally.
Rain hammered down on the peloton as they formed up in Bastogne's Place Macauliffe for the 135-kilometre ride through the hills of the Ardennes and into Liège for the first autumn classic. The opening 30 kilometres saw little in the way of action. The pace way too high for any breakaways to form, and the bunch, well protected in their rain gear, stayed together. However, a brief lull saw a group of 9 women come together on the third of 5 classified climbs, the Côte de la WWT, with the peloton nearly 1 minute down at the top. The gap remained the same when the leading group reached the race's signature climb, the Côte de la Redoute, and it was here that former road world champion Lizzie Deignan launched a strong move at the head of the leading group, quickly gapping her rivals. Meanwhile, behind, the race began to hot up in the peloton, the pace lifting and the gap to the breakaway coming down. But Deignan retained her lead at the front, taking an advantage of 30 seconds on the breakaway over the top of the climb. The peloton failed to close the gap, and even the chasing group were unable to close in on Deignan, who began the final classified climb, the Côte de la Roche au Faucon, leading by more than a minute. But as the chasers reached the bottom, Australian Grace Brown attacked the group and began to close the British rider down. Steadily, the Mitchelton Scott rider ate into the gap, crossing the top of the climb only 33 seconds behind Deignan, while the chasing group began to struggle and the day became a 2-woman race. Deignan appeared to be tiring as the road went up and down towards the city of Liège, and Brown looked increasingly likely to catch her rival. The race came to a nail-biting conclusion, the leader flying under the Flamme Rouge with only 10 seconds lead, Deignan rocking and rolling, gritting her teeth as she tried desperately to hang on. It was a massive effort for Brown too, but she was unable to close the gap, the 2 women fighting tooth and nail, one the hunter, the other the hunted. As she entered the closing straight, Brown could even see Deignan ahead, and both women battled to the line. But for Brown, the race was just a few hundred metres too short, and Deignan crossed the line to win her 3rd UCI Women's World Tour race of the season.
A bit surreal still, yeah, really delighted. I want to dedicate this to Trek Segafredo. I mean, it was a real team victory. We've been waiting for a classics victory for a little while now, so I'm really pleased. We knew Ellen wanted to be in a breakaway, and it was not the plan for me to bridge across when I did, but I just you have the freedom in this team to race on instinct and not be scared of failing, and I just thought, why not? I'll go across and see what happens. And actually Ellen was the one who said, Lizzie, you have to go on La Redoute. So I listened to Ellen and it paid off.
It was a real battle. Like I was definitely riding for the win, trying to catch Lizzie. But for me, coming second at a race like this is really big, and yeah, it shows a huge step in my development as a cyclist. This is my first World Tour podium, so I'm excited with the result.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't going to win the sprint, but I trained a bit on some attacks, and I thought I need to attack somewhere in the last 2K, but I couldn't find a moment, and then I thought, okay, now I just go in the last 700 meters, something like this, and I was waiting for Marianne to pass me, but she didn't came, so it was a nice surprise.
With Deignan beating Brown by just 9 seconds, the winner's Trek Segafredo teammate Ellen van Dijk led the chasing group home for 3rd place, with Marianne Vos taking 4th. Finishing over 3 minutes behind the winner, Sunweb's Liane Lippert led the peloton home in 10th place. Her third UCI Women's World Tour win of the year sees Lizzie Deignan swap places with Anna van der Breggen at the top of the individual standings, while Marianne Vos moves into 3rd place. Liane Lippert's brave ride ensuring she continues to lead the classification, while her Sunweb teammate Juliette Labousse moves up into 3rd place. In between the two is New Zealander Michaela Harvey in 2nd place.